Here we have a cube which has a volume of 27, and what we're trying to figure out is the length of segment AB. So here's the length of segment AB. It's from the the back face of the cube and leads to the front face of the cube. So if you're picturing a cube right now, think of one of the ends to really the furthest end. And that's the distance that we're trying to figure out. It's a pretty standard problem for the SAT, and this is what you need to do. See that little the cube at the bottom on the floor? You can imagine you have to figure out the length of the diagonal of that little face, and once you can figure that out, you see how I have that triangle kind of embedded in there now. So once I have this figured out, I'll know what this is, I'll know what this is, then I can figure out the diagonal using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that's really a high level overview of how we're going to attack this problem. So let's get to it. The volume of this cube is 27. So if the volume of the cube is 27, the length of each side of this must be 3, 3, and 3. And the reason I know that is because the volume of a cube is side cubed, and if it's side cubed, 3 times 3 times 3 will be 27, and that's how I know all these sides are 3. Now, if I know that this is 3, I know that this is 3. See what the diagonal of the floor that we talked about? I know that this is, let's color that in too. Give me 1 second. So what we're going to try to figure out right now is, I know that this, we said is 3. We said that this is 3. And what we're going to figure out is that the length of that diagonal right there. And let's do that one more time. There you go. So that diagonal is what we're going to try to figure out. So let's use our a squared plus b squared equals c squared to figure that out. So 3 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. So again, that was my a, that's my b, and the diagonal that I'm going to solve for right now is going to be c. So 9 plus 9 equals c squared. 9 plus 9 is 18. So 18 equals c squared, and c will equal square root of 18. So now I know that that length is square root of 18. So if we take that back to the main triangle, let's get this in here too. So what I just figured out was that length right there. That length is square root of 18. So that right there, and that is square root of 18. I know that this length right there is 3. Now I know that the other leg is square root of 18, and we're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared one more time to figure out that length right there. So it'll be 3 plus square root of 18, so everything here is going to be squared, equals c squared. So 3 squared is 9, square root of 18 squared is just 18, 18 plus 9 is 27, and then c will equal square root of 27. And then if we rationalize square root of 27, let's do that up here. Square root of 27 will be square root of 9 times square root of 3. Square root of 9 is just 3, so 3 root 3 would be the final answer. Because what I just figured out right now is that length right there. Right, because the leg, we knew what this leg was, which is where that 3 came from. We knew that that square root of 18 was the other leg, so that's where the b came from. And then we were able to figure out the longest diagonal because of that triangle that we formed in there. So common cube problem where they're asking you for the longest possible distance between the 2 points, and that's really the furthest diagonals, A and B. And you just have to draw a couple triangles to figure out the length of AB. But now here's a little bit of a trick. This will work every single time. So for right now, we see how the answer is 3 squared of 3, right? This is really my long way of explaining you how to do all this. So let me get rid of all of this. This is going to make it sound so simple. If you are trying to figure out the diagonal of any cube and you know the length of any side, so let's say that we knew this was 3, right? The diagonal will always be side times root 3. So see how the side here was 3? So the answer here became 3 root 3. If let's say the side here was 2, then the answer would be 2 root 3. If the side there was 10, then the answer would be 10 root 3 for the diagonal of the cube. And the diagonal of the cube is just the distance between the 2 furthest points. So that's really a simple way of figuring out the diagonal of a cube. You might be asking yourself why I showed you how to do all that stuff before. I think it's nice to know instinctively what's happening, just a deeper knowledge of how you're wedging the triangles in there, just in case they flip the question. But this little trick you can only use if you have a standard cube and they're asking you for the diagonal of the cube, then you know the answer is going to be side whatever the length of the side is times root 3. So if you know the side over here is 3, the diagonal is just going to be 3 root 3.